Now, ladies and gentlemen, we swiftly move on to the second session for the day, which will be about hospitality, giving back to society, and the way forward. Now, how can these brands extend a hand of support and give back to the very communities that contribute to their success? That is the question that we're planning to find answers to. From sustainable practices to community engagement initiatives, the session aims to illuminate all of us and the path forward for the brands to not just be contributors, but active participants in fostering positive societal impact. So, ladies and gentlemen, moving forward, I would now like to invite our moderator for this session, Mr. Ratan Keshwani. Please join me in welcoming him with a big round of applause. Somebody who has over 3 decades of experience in the hospitality sector, 4 decades of experience in the hospitality sector, a distinguished tenure at Lemon Tree Hotels and Oberoi Hotels and Resorts, bringing a wealth of experience in various aspects. We are very glad to have him. He's also the author of a very well-received book, Check In, Never Check Out, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you very much, Mr. Ratan, for joining us as the moderator of this session. And our first panelist, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to invite Ajaya Bakawa, Chairman and Managing Director of Sarovar Hotel and Resorts. We're very glad to have a trailblazer in the Indian hospitality, someone who leads with entrepreneurial zeal and an experienced hotelier with over 45 years of work in India, Africa, Australia, France, and UK. So delighted to have Mr. Ajaya with us. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd also like you to please be kind and welcome Mr. Javed Ali onto the stage for this panel discussion, Vice President of Operations for Radisson Hotel Group in South Asia. He's a seasoned and skilled hotelier and has been associated with the group for over 2 decades now and very well versed in the Radisson ecosystem as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Javed, for joining us today. We'd also like to welcome Mr. Nikhil Sharma with us for this particular session, Market Managing Director of Eurasia of Wyndham Hotels and Resort. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us with over 2 decades of experience in the hospitality industry. We're very glad to have him with us, share his thoughts in this particular session as well. Ladies and gentlemen, adding on to this fantastic panel, I would like to invite Mr. Pushpendra Bansal, COO at Lords Hotels and Resorts, to kindly join us in this session as well. He's a civil engineer turned hospitality stalwart. He diversified into the hospitality sector, setting up hotels in Surat and Mumbai. And today he operates 46 hotels across 3 countries and 15 more in progress. Very happy to have Mr. Bansal join us as well. We'd now like to invite Mr. Upal Majumdar as well onto the stage, Head of Practice Tourism, Dolma Consulting. With over 30 years of experience, he specializes in enhancing service quality around businesses and elevating customer experiences. He also worked as the CEO of the Annapurna Hotel Group in Kathmandu and is the advisor of the Tourism and Civil Aviation Committee of the Federation of Nepalese Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Very glad to have Mr. Upal Majumdar join us in this session. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, the stage is all set, and I would now like to hand over the proceedings of this session to our moderator. And I think our photographer definitely wants to take a group photograph before we begin this session. So, gentlemen, if you could kindly look at our photographer, we promise to give you this group photo by the end of this session. Yes, I think we can. Big bright smiles before the session. Hopefully we'll see all these big bright smiles after the session as well. Thank you very much to the gentlemen. And we'd now like to request our moderator to kindly take over this session. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think most are sustaining themselves with some tea and snacks outside. The problem of doing a session just before lunch and on the second day is a lot of the questions that you've sent out to your panelists have already been covered by the panel. So we're going to flip the tack a little bit. We've changed one of our participants. Welcome, Javed. We've heard through the last 1.5 days a lot of recommendations. We've heard through a lot of pieces around where opportunities lie. We've heard from consultants, architects, F&B professionals on where they believe that the world is going to go. But I'm going to raise a question, just not to the panelists, but all of you too, isn't it about time to select 3 or 4 specific themes which can be followed up by the industry commonly? And they may be different only because the fact that a large number of us are from India, but it's also relevant in its difference to its application in Nepal. So I'll try and go into that piece. To give it a bit of context, during COVID, after COVID, we all discussed optimizations, we all discussed waste management, we all discussed the fact that, getting people was becoming difficult. We had a lot of discussions, a fair number of verbal commitments, but as an external person now, unfortunately, the industry left it at discussions. So now if you're going back to hotels, your large buffets are back, the plastics are back. Mr. Rakesh Mathur commented on it before. Design specifications, while a lot of colleagues have talked about it, are pretty much the same. We can blame the owner, we can blame the environment. So because so much has been said about that piece, and because we're in Nepal, let's start with Upal first, because you've been both a hotelier in practice, you've led training practices, you are consulting in this medium. Where are the 3 key themes that you would believe contextualizing the needs of Nepal, even though you're from back home, that you would like people in this room to actually labor over more deeply and make some commitments? It could be to environment, materials, people, communities. Any 3 themes that you would like to lay on the table, and we can have a chat.
Thank you, Mr. Keswani. See, in the context of Nepal, unlike so many other neighboring countries, there is very little legislation which forces businesses to really take care of the environment. And what Nepal really has to offer is all outdoors. Most of tourism, I think in Nepal there is nothing indoor tourism at all, whether it's the mountains or the rivers, and when we have the national parks or all these places all around. And of course, the fantastic weather which we enjoy in Kathmandu at least all year round. So one, it would be great for the industry to come forward with practices and share those with so many new hotel and hospitality projects coming up, rather than, being forced by law to be able to put this in. So this is...
Let me put you into a spot. You gave these guys 3 things that they must do,
Yeah.
which are relevant to Nepal.
Yeah. So
And
one
let
is...
them minute it and table it and take it further.
Yeah. So first is practices in green managing of hotel and hotel projects. That is something which Nepal does not have, and it's not mandated by law. But I think that's first step, which we can take. Though Nepal is absolutely committed to COP28 and to sustainability practices, but it's not legislated. So these are one thing. Second thing is, skilling people about environmental practices. In Nepal, it still largely lies in the domain with INGOs or NGOs who are bringing this across and trying to get even governments to start looking at it. But when you look into the hospitality sector, we already have these kind of things there. So skilling people in running courses on how this is to be done. For example, waste management in a hotel. We can, as a hotel, run that as part of your CSR for other businesses, industries, governments. I think that can make a lot of difference. And third is, a majority of workforce of Nepal goes abroad. 50% of the workforce of Nepal is not working in Nepal, they're working abroad because they don't have the opportunities. And when we look into new hotel openings, I've been involved with several over the past 2 years. Our biggest gap is not getting trained manpower, and then we have to start importing them from other parts. And invariably, we look forward to India to get most people to come and work here in key leadership positions. So another thing what the industry can do, especially chains, and I have some of them sitting here, who are running properties very successfully abroad, is hire workforce from Nepal into your properties, train them up for leadership positions which are going to open up for future, for the properties which you are looking at opening in Nepal. And all the chains have properties under development or they're talking about it. And all of them, when they open, it's really difficult to get the correct head of department. So again, if you do a little bit of future planning, you take people from here who want to go and work and then bring them back in when you have hotels opening. I think these are three key messages which I could start with.
Fabulous. I'll come to skilling as part of something else and what we can do. I'll flip from an international perspective and then we can envelope it. Nikhil, Wyndham did a fair amount of new practices, which you guys were chatting about in recent conferences, around multiple parts of ESG or sustainability. Mr. Manik has talked a lot about it in one of the sessions I had with him. Could you share some best practices, 3 of them, that would probably be unique presently to Wyndham, but it may be a learning to the audience and the others?
Right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Keswani. Just on ESG, I just want to say none of the practices are unique, but they need to be consistent and they need to be done right. So that's the first piece. On ESG, what we've been able to do is we've set up 5 levels of how green is your hotel. And as of last year, we've mandated it across the 9,000 hotels that we have globally in 95 countries to be at least level 1 certified. Now, level 1 certification is very, very basic. You know, it's do you have your tap water at a certain temperature, and so on and so forth. Those practices exist in hotels. We don't make sure that they're consistent. So that's the first thing that we've done. Just coming back closer home, and I want to interest, I know you will probably take skilling up, but that's something that's close to all our hearts. And
We'll come back to that point separately.
Upal touched on it, okay, yeah. But we need to talk about skilling, yes, and what we're doing on skilling.
Yeah.
So the levels that we have are, like I said, it's on our website. We've made it simple. We've made it easy for anyone and everyone to try and take it and practice it. Whether you're an independent hotel, whether you're a boutique hotel, all of it is out there, and it's easy for all of you to do. I mean, it gets tougher and tougher to reach level 4 and level 5. No plastic and so on and so forth, and a certain level of water usage and, you know, very, very basic stuff, but all of it is extremely implementable, and we've been driving it for the last 2.5, 3 years. And it's important for, you know, Mr. Mathur spoke about sustainability, but the reality is the large global OTAs have now started putting a tab of how green your hotel is. So if you don't qualify on those parameters, your hotels are not going to start popping up. So a consumer may want to stay in a green hotel. They're not currently ready to pay for it, but we see a trend in that direction that they are going to pay for it eventually. So that's really what we are doing at Wyndham Hotels.
Taking from Wyndham said, just, you know, taking an offshoot from here, for all new owners or existing owners, yesterday you heard that sometimes getting to convince or persuade owners in what they should do, different from how they wish to do in the community and their recognition. I don't know how many of you know, if you are chasing finance other than bank finance, and of course, you know, what we heard yesterday, if you're chasing finance from private equity and funds, there are funds who give you good finance at decent finance costs, but they give it to projects who are reasonably ESG compliant. We'll talk about ESG separately, and ESG is all about what Nikhil and others have said. And if you are able to present a checklist of what you're going to do, it will attract certain funds that haven't been part of your spectrum of consideration. So please keep it in mind. It doesn't just get you ROI later, but it also gives you access to new funding that has not been available in our business before. Coming back, Mr. Bakaya, Sarovar and Golden Tulip have recently started a fair amount of things around this piece. Any unique learnings or any unique challenges that came up in their application?
You know, I think the key really is to keep it simple. If you get 5 out of 5 plus 3, 15 points, we're going to lose them in this hall altogether. So I'll come up with just 2 simple things. And if we have it in our heart to do something without waiting for legislation, because most of the time, the large bulk of people in hotels are waiting for the law to say, "Boss, ab ye karna hi padega." Then you do it, and then the lobby starts off saying, "Can we wait 5 years, 10 years?" So you achieve very little. But I'll give you 2 instances of things that are very doable, and one can probably start a trend in India. So we picked up from somewhere in the US the concept of doing away with plastic and bottles altogether. That's the biggest thing in hotels is plastic and single-use plastic. Bottling plants are expensive. So we said we're building a new hotel in Chennai. Every single room will have an RO. Where you have a tea coffee maker, you'll have an RO point, like you have in a house. No bottles, nothing required. You go there, you tap clean drinking water, you're drinking. No bottles to order, to purchase, to store, to issue, and to worry about garbage. We have a very senior MEP consultant on the project, and he said, don't recommend it. The interior designer said, look, it really doesn't fit into anything, don't do it. My team said to me, why are you running after this? It's not, where are you going to get the piping from, blah, 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 don't do it. And I said to them, guys, whatever happens, this hotel is going to have that arrow point in every single room. It's not a huge cost. It's just sitting together. So the interesting part is not a cost. The cost is very small. It's just a mindset which says, why do something new? It's been carrying on for so long, and why mess around? You'll have a problem, leakage, blah, 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 everything else. So we are opening in March, April of next year in Chennai, 156 bay hotel. It's a mid-market, 3-4 star portico in every single room, and I think we're probably going to be the first in this country to do that. We'll have a dispenser which gives you RO water straight away, so you don't have to worry about the sealed plastic bottles or any glass bottles or anything at all. No bottling plants, nothing required. So I think if we have it in our hearts that we want to do something for sustainability, rather than pay lip service. My experience is the larger the company, and I'm not talking hospitality companies, the larger the company worldwide, the more they talk about these things. Is the heart in there? I'm not so sure. So if you have your heart in the right place, you can do it. Something else, simple, straightforward. Everybody here can do it with zero discussion. You say, I'm going to put away 10 rupees from every single guest hotel bill towards sustainability. I'd pick up a desert area somewhere, I say I'm going to grow green, and I'd start planting trees. You can do hundreds and thousands of trees. 10 rupees, guests are not even looking at it. Your financial controllers, a whole lot of people say, no, legal complications, this, that, everything else. If you have it here to do it, you do it. So I'm saying simple things, we are moving ahead with these, and we want to make sure they're put in place, irrespective of what the industry is doing.
Yeah, and then some people say, but that's not how luxury hospitality works, and then we lose everything. Because we all come from a background, unfortunately, of the ethos of what we believe luxury should be all about, and not in its sustainability. Pushpendra ji, anything that you have done differently? I saw from Mr. Mathur a whole slide that was concerning Lodge Hotels. You had put up a checklist. Could you share something which are 2, 3 critical points that you think are unique to your group?
First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Pushpendra Bansal, COO of Lodge Group, and we are operating about 60 hotels in 13 states, 3 countries. After Mr. Mathur joining, I'll be very honest. I realized that I have to give to society back, and he forced us, I would say, he forced us that there should be an environmental charter with every GM and all the staff, that you have to do it.
3 cheers, Mr. Madhu. Thank you. Maybe you could circulate that charter to everybody. It'd be a good idea.
So there is an environmental charter which we have done differently, including in Nepal also. And we are building more hotels here, which we are making towards, like Nikhil told, green, with all different levels, which again Mr. Mathur is. And he was he's so strict that today morning, 6 o'clock he got up. I took him to one of my property to show him that, sir, this is what we are doing. So that is different thing I am doing. 6 o'clock in the morning, Mr. Mathur, and we are having a meeting with the owner. It's not that we are doing ourselves. Owner was there. Again, he found something in mind that in that hotel I didn't saw that, let us go there. So I had to call owner that our director, senior director is coming. And again, we had 8 o'clock, there was again a different meeting. And he was the first person to here for the session. So he did all in the morning. So I think it's totally different.
I think the learning that comes out, sorry to interrupt, is if you have personal belief, the critical 3-4 things have to be done. But if you keep giving it conceptual lip service, we will be discussing it 5 years later in a similar conference, and we'll just be standing in the same place. Yeah, please go ahead if you had anything else to add.
Again, then he is, I think, president of responsible tourism. So he is making us that, yes, you do whatever your CSR is there. It should not be just on the books. It should be actually done. So we never cleaned our roads. We never cleaned the beaches. We never did much of giving back to the society. But when I followed him, I remembered my father. My father and my mother used to tell us, always give back to the society. So he started 140-bedded hospital, which is still running in Gandhidham, free, just 10 rupees token. And when Mr. Ajay Bakaya was saying of 10 rupees, I realized I had a friend who runs even today Golden Transport. He took 1 rupee for a bilti, transportation, and he has built that charitable hospital in Delhi, in East Delhi.
Correct.
And it's running very nicely.
Fabulous.
Second, what we have differently done is we save our food, which is saved now. Before we were not doing, I'm telling you that, and distribute it to the poor who are not having it. And I personally, from last 28 years, if I'm in Bombay, I serve 150 people who are from street wanderers and hot breakfast. There is a trust made, Asha Kiran Trust. Even today, while I'm talking, it was done, except the COVID period of 1 year, not 2 years. 1 year we didn't do it. So likewise, we are doing many things.
Fabulous. Javed, let me put you, you're a big brand. Let me put you in the doghouse. All you brands have great stuff written on your websites and what you're doing, and rankings and ratings come out. Give me 2 that have been successful for you and impactful for you across the board, not bits and pieces.
Right. Certainly, conformance. There are 2 aspects of this. One is what's legislated, the other is what's enlightenment. And in that, we have our owner partners actually who are taking the lead on aspects that give back to society, and before, and not just the COVID, but also going forward from that. One is rendering aid to people in a crisis. The second is to set them up for success, employment, livelihoods, and we're partnering with them. Foundations which are owners at their behest put up in places which are tier 2, 3 locations. So it's not where we have a large part of our operation. So it's no virtue for us to provide employment to the locals. There's no choice. And it's fantastic because you are able to train them in a formal environment, in a, say, classroom setting, college setting, give them a certification, and then give them practical experience at our hotels across the country, and then absorb them. So that's one. Second is that, unfortunately, we lost some colleagues during the pandemic, and then that led to our setting up a germination of an idea, which is now in place about setting up a Radisson Charitable Foundation for the children of those staff members whose education is secured all the way up to undergrad. So that's two. It's small steps, but it's in the right direction. Apart from contributions that are made with NGOs who take it upon themselves to empower livelihoods for ladies, underprivileged children, and then absorb them in the workforce. All of this, I do want to say one other thing. I think that there's a very long way to go, and we respect organizations that are light years ahead of us in terms of their environment responsibilities, but we're also conscious of the fact that we don't own any of our assets, and they are owned by our investors, many of whom may be first-time hoteliers. So our ask and request to our architects, designers, equipment suppliers, tech partners is that if it's not sustainable at inception, then build in a manner that makes it easy to retrofit when it does need to be retrofit or when it can be feasible to do so. So that's the other ask. Having said that, there are certain locations which are highly desirable, make great business sense. So before we thought that we would need to have them chip in, they're chipping in themselves. So many have invested in, say, wind energy farms or alternate sources of renewable energy, and piping it whichever way, directly or indirectly, usually indirectly, into the hotels. So you get a much lower operating cost. So what works very well for the owner community and all of us is the business sense that it makes. I admire, and it was fantastic to get a very clear perspective from the venerable gentleman in the morning yesterday with a great deal of humor, who told us why we should do something for the future generations, even if they've done nothing for us. So for that, of course, that does provide great clarity, and thanks to Mr. Kaul and AiM for arranging to get them to speak to us. It's also great to listen to colleagues and the community, fraternity that puts up the places where chaps like me make a livelihood, and to learn from them. And Mr. Bakaya, stalwarts, easy, simple things to do, easily replicated by us, and well, certainly it gives us an idea, but on what we can do simply. Of course, other aspects like water bottling plants and so on are like a little passé now, they are, but they're, let's say, passé in the sense de rigueur. There's nothing special about putting a water bottling plant or doing away with plastic straws and so on. Thank you.
We come back to pet peeve for most of us. One part of sustainability is actually community and skilling. It's something Gopal does very well. It's a pet subject. Nikhil has a great intensity of thought, and he puts it into practice. Here's the problem. We have unemployment youth in India and Nepal. We have jobs, but we can't match them. Strange as it seems, it's true. Do we address the communities in their language to be able to make them understand the usefulness of our job, that we will keep their kids safe, and that they can see growth and not be slaves of habit? We don't. As an industry, we don't. So we are not the industry of preference, even tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, 4. We've been talking about this, we will do this, and we will do that. I've been through many, many conferences over the last 4 years, but we moved nowhere. You must have read recently, Israel, because the war wants skill in farmers and technicians, and they want to go out. Nepalese, you said, can't find things to do here, so they go out. We don't go back into the community to find the answers, to help them in their thought medium and otherwise, and be able to draw that community into what we want to do. The answer, ladies and gentlemen, actually lies within you. Because the moment business goes up, we forget our promises. And we complain our services falter because we don't have the right people. They have not been skilled well. I did a session over the last 3-4 weeks in 4 colleges, out of which 2 are in hospitality, 2 are outside of hospitality. The 2 hospitality colleges, I addressed cohorts of 80 people. 80 were going to pass out. And I asked them to put their hand on their heart and say, they were in hospitality training, how many would see themselves in hospitality? Let me give you startling numbers. In one institute, out of 80, the answer was 0. In the other institute, out of 80, the answer was from 1 lady. So I had a champion. And I asked, I said, you will join hospitality? She says, yes. I'm going to work in hospitality for 1 year. Then I'm going to open my own restaurant. So the net score was 0-0 from 2 leading institutions. Same thing was there for the other man. So coming back to Nikhil, I'll start with you, go on to Upal. What is it that we can do? Also, we don't look at diverse segments in skilling. And some companies have done a stellar job. Why can't we all do that? We need them. Do we not pay them well? Do we not treat them well? We talk about cultures, but they're also on paper. What are the 2-3 things that you can do as an industry and believe in them that will get you results and also add value to the communities around you? So, Nikhil, would you like to go first? And then Upal,
Sure.
we can come back.
Thank you, Mr. Keswani. As an industry, I think, and work-life balance varies, but as an industry, if we can move to 5 days a week, it's a huge piece. And of course, ensure that we pay a little more than basic at the base level. So those are the 2 easy tasks. Staffing numbers do not go up at 5 day a week, contrary to what most small hotels would end up thinking. They do not go up, and we have case study of proving it to our owners, because we work in a franchise setup, and the first thing the owner says, oh, staffing levels go up if I give 5 days a week. They do not. So those are 2 small tweaks that we've been able to implement, and we've seen great results on that. Just on skilling, and I want to touch on what at Wyndham we've been doing at skilling, and trying to ensure that the youth that you spoke of, Mr. Keswani, gets into hotels and gets into hospitality, because it's a great industry. We wouldn't be sitting in this room if it wasn't for hospitality, and we wouldn't believe in it. I think that needs to transcend into the students. That will only happen if we give them, like I just said, the 2 things, pay parity and 5 days a week, because for them, work is not everything. They have a personal life, like other wheels. They would like to do other things in life. We've partnered with an organization called Job Plus to ensure that we skill students, and that becomes a talent pool to not only our existing hotels, but to hotels that are opening. The other thing that we've seen is, as we expand into tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities, and Upal, this is to your point, and it's already happening, we are seeing a lot of trained manpower that was operating in the metro cities coming back to a Bareilly, to a Siliguri, to an Indore, because there's a branded hotel present there today. Right? They may have worked with us or may have not worked with us in the past, but because there is an opportunity in their city, they're even happier to come at a slightly lower cost than what they were getting paid at metro cities. So that's a big change that we are seeing with tier 2, tier 3 cities. And the last piece, and I think Mr. Bagaya said, it needs to come from the heart. Every organization needs to do something. You've heard yesterday, AiM, how they're giving 2 lakhs out to each organization. What at Wyndham we've been able to do is we've tied up with a school in Bangalore and Raipur. It's called Crystal House. This house it's a school, it's a day boarding school, which gets students only from the poorest of the poor. So these are daily wage laborers' kids that go to these schools. Everything is free from KG to class 12. The school takes care of it. So we are going to, and we've already started, we're sponsoring 2 kids from that school, 1 boy, 1 girl, into ISH, which is the Indian School of Hospitality, and making sure that students move into hospitality. Right. It may seem like a small step, just 2 students, but believe you me, to even get those 2 students from a city like Bangalore and Raipur is a task. So our team actually has to travel there 3 times a year, 4 times a year, speaking about what hotels are, what is hospitality to a 8th standard kid, to a 10th standard kid, to see those 2 students come out. So these are the small steps that I think hospitality as a whole is contributing, and that's what we are doing.
Apollo.
Yeah. So, Mr. Keswani, that was very interesting of what the hotel management students, thought. And I'd like to take all of us back to that kid who got into that hotel management college, got in because they wanted a career in hotels. But I think in the second year when they went for their on-the-job training, the way the hotels mishandled them, they realized this is going probably the poorest choice for me in terms of career. So, all right. So one...
Opal, I'm going to, sorry.
Yeah.
He's so right. Our industrial training programs and apprentice programs and those banquet trainees that we get to, guys, wake up any which ways. You were handled badly too. Can you stop this rubbish? I've heard this from every single student that was there. I thought those practices we had, exhumed and thrown away. Go on, sorry.
So interestingly, I'm opening several hotels. So what we found, now we've got, as a staffing solution, we've got vendors now who really get you trained manpower. They charge you more, the kid gets more, and those are, solutions which are happening. But interestingly, after I moved out of main school hoteliering, mainline, I now work with a fund called Dolma Impact Fund. It's a social impact fund. So necessarily, we put in money where there is a social impact which gets created. And I'll tell you some very interesting insights and anecdotes which I picked up. Something what Nikhil also just mentioned, that people coming back to their roots and working for lower pay, but they want to be near home. In Chitwan, which is one of the largest national park for Nepal, we worked actually with the communities, the forest communities who live there, and they've made hotels. It's under a homestay program, but the community got together, they put in the money for the land, and what we did, we got them expertise from abroad in helping them build the right kind of things. And one good silver lining of COVID was, we all learned hygiene. Even a guy in a village who probably thought hygiene was Lifebuoy soap, is today knows what is a sanitizer and how do you use it. So with the result, what happened, very quickly, we were able to set up these properties which are experiential, completely experiential in nature, and that's making a lot of difference. So again, that's where it is. But I wonder if any brand would touch something like that. So one of the other things, and today, brands are changing. They're coming up with soft brands, they're coming with associate brands. So I think if all the brands could come out, with a brand like this, which works with rural communities or smaller towns, that would make a lot of difference, because those people are not fully skilled, and it happens. And if any of you ever go and stay in Chitwan, you take a jungle package, and one of the jungle packages is that you have these villagers, they're the Tharu community, who come and do this dance for you at night. And I've stayed in several hotels where those same people were in the morning in the hotel uniform serving you breakfast, and at night they wore their traditional uniform, then came, and the middle of the day, the hotel gives them off so that they can go and work in the fields. So we have a lot of these kind of models happening where hospitality is a byproduct. Yeah.
So coming from what Opal said, just give you, so I was talking to two heads of companies. During COVID, a lot of people went home by force or otherwise. Then they wanted to work in hotels close by to where their homes were. So that worked for them, and that helped those cities. But everybody talks about, when we are opening a hotel in a different destination, we put it out on our intranet, we normally take them on the next grade. And on the reality part, the general manager of the same companies that I met, he said, yeah, we have that practice, but look, I need people. I am not going to let him go. So the limitation is that the location one general manager holds back the possibility of moving a skilled person into his own company's hotel, satisfies the employee, he or she is closer to family, is willing to accept a different compensation model because of something, but because he wants to hold on to his own talent. So which means we are not looking at it as an industry, as a brand, as a company. If you start to look at it in unit form, we're still going to be running the marathon and we won't rest the tape. Ajay, anything to add to that piece?
Yeah, a few small things. So, one of the big banes of our business, whether it's standalone or otherwise, in food and beverage particularly, is the concept of split shifts. You tell a guy, come serve his lunch because that's my busy time, then take a break and then come back and serve dinner. We're not going to get people to do those things anymore. So we at least have a diktat, so in the next 3 months or 6 months, you phase that practice out altogether. Happens in all hotels, happens in all restaurants. The guy starts from home in the morning, does lunch, you have a locker room which may be conducive or not. He may or may not have things to do around the hotel. And then he finishes it at midnight. You know, we did those things in the good old days. They're not workable anymore at all. Coming to hotel school, I was in Jammu at a Food Craft Institute just about a week ago. And one of the things the boys and girls said was, we go to hotels as industrial trainees. They like us, they offer us a job after that. But I know what I'm doing, but now I'm called a on-the-job trainee. So the hotels are using the additional 6 months to save their money. So we said, okay guys, in our company at least, we are running around begging and desperate for people. That if you had somebody work with you 6 months and hire him on a job, knock off this on-the-job training part in between. So that gets them higher up on the salary scale and saves them 6 months. Women in the workforce, you know, we have to change our thought process for women to stay in the workforce. So anything that's not very strictly operational, be more, I think, I would say, positively discriminatory. You know, most women in the workforce run a home, have kids, and come to work. So as much as possible, you have more flexibility on work from home. You're more considerate to people falling sick at home, saying, okay, don't worry, take care of that and come back when you're ready. So those are the changes we need to bring about in our system. On a macro scale, we are now starting off a management training program in the company. We've not done it for so many years because we felt we did not have the time and the bandwidth to do it properly. But young managers, young housekeepers, young chefs, and we've had lots of debate and lots of discussion. We were talking about this again this morning, and Rajiv Kaul was there. And the statistics are that all people graduating from management training programs are not in the organization 2 or 3 years after they've graduated. So it's a huge investment for the company, but very little return, and you can't hold them back. So it's veering more and more to how do you handle that. You have good people that served in your organization for 2 or 3 years. They know they want to be in hospitality. They know you are the company. Choose them for your training programs. Those supervisors are not going to find managerial jobs outside. Train them to be managers. If you focus at that stage on where they come from, if there are smaller places in Gujarat and Rajasthan and Pondicherry, etc., 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 it'll make life easier for you. They will step out of the small places, they go to the larger cities, but somewhere down the line in their life, they want to go back to their roots, old parents, whatever reason, etc., etc. And you'll have this army of yours who knows what to do, who can handle more responsibility, and who are in those places.
Wonderful. Javed, to close the loop. You were part of the Radisson had that educational institution, and then I don't know where it stands.
So, you know, I think what we need to also understand what's working, but also what's not working. And once you know that, then you try and recalibrate your approach. So one of the learnings to our root shock was that, you know, it's nothing to do with social strata or affluence, desirability of hospitality as a profession. So we are dying to get them, but they're not that keen. So, and it shows, you know, when you are looking for school students to come and do vocational type jobs with you, so that they can then be absorbed in the workforce, move up, and so on. We found that the aptitude or interest level is fairly low. So in one horrible stat is that from 500 people, we could only shortlist 5 in one instance. So, you know, that made us rethink, and of course, use of whether Hindi or local language skills is acceptable for certain tasks and functions, yes, perhaps we were being too fastidious. So, so the relevance and understanding and dawning of that. That's one. Ladies, of course, their flexible work hours, approachability to the workplace at their convenience is the other. I have a comment about, you know, this aptitude and who does it appeal to, hotels or hospitality as a profession. It takes a certain kind of person, you know. The person, we have to also see what are the relevant options that a school student may have in terms of a career. So, of course, everybody wants to be a doctor or engineer, and if you are a hotel manager or a chef, in the bad old days, you know, my bad old days, our teacher told us that nobody, it says wanted doctor, wanted engineer, kabhi paper mein ye nahi aata, wanted chef. So, as in the matrimonials, but those are the bad old days. Sanjeev Kapoor, my batchmate, is a living embodiment of that. So, so it is also to do with our ability. I think this industry has the ability that if you are your academic proficiency is not a yardstick with which to measure your professional capability or the ability to rise, and there is ability for the profession to absorb, train, enhance capability, even develop personalities to be able to pull off tasks which would otherwise be just not even considerable. For instance, if I was to interview myself as an entry-level job when I was a youngster and I didn't have the patronage of people like Mr. Kumar, I'd probably reject myself. So I think, you know, we're just, we had the benefit of enlightened leaders, and we ought to change and recalibrate and be confident in our ability to be able to train people and lift their capability. Second thing is, I think institutes of hotel management also ought to filter out, or at least, you know, make the expectations clear, set the aspirations right of every kid who makes it into hotel school. May not be appropriate sort of career for that because his personality makeup or his just level of interest, or he may have several other distractions and other attributes. So there are certain givens in our industry in terms of work-life balance. I don't know, we can cope with it to some degree, but it will need to be dealt with to a, you know, all through life, if you look at me. But to a lesser and lesser degree of the demand on this goes down as you are up the, let's say, responsibility chain, and at the shop floor level, of course, it's very high. The people who are joining now, my son has zero amount of patience in terms of, he's also a hotelier, believe it or not, in terms of, you know, the reward cycle, a recognition cycle. So high frequency, and I think spot rewards. This is the other thing, motivator. A lot of talking that needs to be done. The company is as good as your immediate boss. He doesn't know what is his entity called company. It's just his immediate boss who's good, bad, or ugly, and that's how he thinks the company reputation is. So what is working, certainly, is those that have made it, or let's say are stabilized in the business. They act as magnets for people from their communities and their villages and their towns to also make it, because they have live examples. So we do talk about that, you know, whenever we're going out looking for talent. Thank you.
Great. So if you come back to sustainability, environment, people, communities, I'll just quote a Hindi movie dialogue. It seems, dil hai jo manta nahi. Because, you know, everything says it's right, but somehow we are not able to convince ourselves to make it our purpose of life. So that's what we had to say. Any questions from the audience, would be happy to take them. Hi, Mushtaq. Could you give him a mic, please?
I have a question also, after Mr. Mathur.
Yeah, I actually did not have a question, but I did tell him that since this is a very passionate subject with me, I did have one or two suggestions. Upul, in India, we have worked with the Ministry of Tourism to evolve the sustainable tourism criteria of India, which I think we could get you a copy, which you may try, and I can send you. Just send me an email and I'll send you, and you may try and emulate that.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah. Number two, Um, you know, this thing about charter that you saw on the screen, which I'll share, of course, with everyone, because we do believe that everyone should be doing that. We have made it mandatory now, at least that was my last request to my colleagues here, make it mandatory for employees to know it at the time of promotion. You know, when you're interviewing or when you're assessing or whenever you're, so that they make it, you know, so that they understand that it is important. Number 3, we've translated it into local languages and into Hindi and displayed it on the back staff entrance boards and things like that. We also, apart from, I think Mr. Bansal spoke about, you know, free food and things, we also have an alliance with a foundation in Bombay, Vipla Foundation, where we have a money collection box for them in each and every one of our hotels. So that is another thing that we are doing. And Ajay, this morning, you know, it's very coincidental, we decided to put a RO point on every floor to the property we went to review. It was this morning's decision. The idea came to us, you know, so not on every room, but every floor, certainly. Having said all this, my last request on a very, very serious note is for all the big brands who are sitting here to become members of the Responsible Tourism Society of India, because we are doing a whole lot of social responsibility without any expectations. It's all an honorary job. I'm an honorary president. So please support us. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mathur. Yeah, so yeah, there's a question here too.
No, I have a question to...
He raised his hand before you. No.
No, go ahead, sorry.
He's your guest too, so let him speak first.
It's your conference. You can go ahead first.
Atithi Devo Bhava, you are our guest.
Thank you. Appreciate it. First, I'm glad that all of us, I was thinking I'm in the wrong industry. I happen to be in renewable power, but I've heard sustainable so many times and no model standards. But I think what is important, Gulmarg being close to our hearts, and if we are not going to change fast on this, we're going to see patterns change. We've seen a bad snow season already. We're not going to be left with any tourism. So with temperatures shooting up high, possibly even looking at needing air conditioning in higher reaches, Srinagar for sure. So we will have to do it mandatorily and possibly greener buildings, not just talk, and sustainable solutions, more solar, more active, renewable things coming directly into the hotels. 1. 2, on the note of sustainable in making sure that the manpower is available, I was just looking at the possibility because Radisson being very active in J&K now, there are these schools who are sort of hospitality schools, but I'm sure they're lacking in skill. So some way of cooperating with them maybe, so that, Sarovar is there, so that there is enough coming back from there, so possibly, be a possible suggestion. Thank you.
I'll just give an anecdote before you raise your question. I'll come to you. Yeah, last one. Many years ago, I was recruiting for the management training program, final stage batches of the IHM. And what landed up happening is out of a batch, I selected only one. My colleagues who were supporting it were all IHM and they got very antsy. The principal came in his pajamas because he was busy having dinner. And I told him, I said, send your faculty to your learning part to come and observe. You don't have to work. Come and observe a night shift. In your personal clothes, just wear decent clothes. See the process and take my training manuals because yours are obsolete. I personally invited him a week later. Do you know nobody came? So as I said, it's in our module to do. Would you allow one more question, ma'am, or do we have to end? You're the controller. One last one.
Okay, my question is to Mr. Bakaya, also to Nikhil and Bansal. Yesterday we had this performance by the especially able kids. And I think we've had a couple of earlier conferences, maybe Mr. Bakaya was part of it. Lemon Tree is already employing about 10 to 15% of its workforce, with they plan to take it to about 25%. Are there any working in what's your take on employing these specially able kids?
Anil, we have some. Lemon Tree has done a brilliant job. They're far ahead of us. We have some, and the only reason we've not been able to grow those numbers is because we've not been able to build the sensitivity within our hotels and our teams to make sure there is a proper reception and proper work environment. But yes, we're working very hard on it, and we hope the numbers will increase.
Okay, I think the young lady is insisting that we close. Guys, we can take questions from you over lunch. Prasenjit, last question, and then we can close. Thank you.
So, all of us talk about getting a proper team. We don't have people. I would urge a lot of operators here to have a look at Starbucks and their team. They have 390 stores. Have a look at their body language of the team. Have a look at how they talk to each other. You go to a hotel, the restaurant staff calls, hey, stewarding, come here. He has a name. Hey, housekeeping. So how we treat the whole workforce and the society has changed last 10 years.
Thank you for saying that. I'm absolutely happy you're saying that.
A dishwasher at Starbucks stands in the same line as a customer and orders his flat white. I don't know how many of your team members know what flat white is.
Thank you. Okay, one more last question. Next to Prasenjit.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I have a question. We spoke a lot about hotel management colleges. When I did my hotel management, say 25 years ago, the moment I stepped into Taj Mahal Hotel Mumbai, I thought 3 years of mine was waste. If I had stepped into that hotel 3 years ago, I would have grown, I don't know how many leaps and bounds forward. So today, I did a survey in Dehradun pre-COVID. Dehradun itself has 57 hotel management colleges. How are they contributing? The first thing that was told to me by Chef Hemant Oberoi was that, hotel is your school. So why do we actually need these hotel management colleges which teach nothing, absolutely nothing? The students come out totally blank. They have no idea what a hotel is, what the industry is all about.
So what's your question?
My question is that we have hotel chains in India which have 100 plus hotels, 5 or 6 of such hotel chains. Why can't they become schools? Why can't they have 4 days of working and 2 days of offline study sitting at home for these students so that we actually know these people belong to the industry from day one and they can be nurtured to the future of this industry? Many chefs in Germany have never attended any school that I have known and they have become successful and great
Mr.
general
Bakaya will
managers.
answer you.
I can answer on behalf of Sarovar. We've discussed many times. We were discussing very, very recently. We would not do a hotel school unless we could make it the top 2 or 3 in this country. We don't want to create a hotel school that's just turning out fodder. That's never a plan. Also, you need a bandwidth. Running hotels and running hotel schools are two completely different businesses, completely different verticals. And we felt that we did not have the bandwidth while we were busy building and developing hotels to be able to do a hotel school on the side. So that's our answer.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Wonderful to be with you. Enjoy your lunch after this.
Fantastic. Thank you very much to our panelists. May I please invite Mr. Kaul to kindly come forward and felicitate all our distinguished panelists for bringing in so much information and passion into this particular topic as we talked about hospitality, giving back to the society and what could be the way forward. Also, our moderator has a tough job of selecting who gets this casino coupon worth rupees 2,000. Requesting our moderator, who do we pick out? Requesting Mr. Mudassir to kindly come forward to accept this token. Thank you, ma'am. Very much. Yes, a big round of applause. Thank you.